I actually use cash flow banking for my kids. So from the time they were 30 days old, I set up a cash value life insurance. I don't even overfund theirs. I just do a base funding because they're so young. It was pretty heavy with the cash anyway. And so I've just been paying them, and then it goes immediately into their policy. They're the ones that are insured, but I own the policy, and I can choose if I ever give it to them or not because the owner controls that, and you can switch ownership anytime the owner decides they want to switch ownership.
Okay.
Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. All right, we have questions that come in about what should I do to get my kids started early with investing, and where should I put that money? If this is you, this is the right video. All right, Chief of Staff Stova, let's dive in.
We're back again.
Yep, back again. I kind of
there
feel
a
like
song?
I started hearing a Backstreet Boys song, like Backstreet's back. All right, like that's how
Totally.
nerdy. This is the money nerd, so I could be that nerdy.
I'm
you
a little
knew
nerdy.
it though. You knew.
Oh, you know,
You've
I know
probably
that
been
word,
to a concert.
that song word by
You've
word.
probably been to a concert.
You know, I was more of an NSYNC fan back in the day, but any 90s boy band music I can.
I was a Justin
Love.
Timberlake fan until he canceled his concert with no notice, and I was all the way a far way away to go to it. And
That
we
would
get
be
there, I'm
super
like, where's
disappointing.
everybody? Yeah,
Weren't you in Europe somewhere?
yeah.
Oh, man.
I just sound pretentious and douchey when I say that. So, like, this is a big problem. I was in Europe and he canceled the concert. I just sound like such a douchebag. I'm sorry.
No. I mean,
I'm gonna drink those with my pinky up.
where's your fancy sweater jacket? You know, that would really,
With my elbow pads.
yeah, that would really be the top of the line there.
All right, question.
Sylvester wrote in.
Sylvester, like that.
Okay. He is asking a question about investing for his child.
Yep.
So I would like to open an investment account for my 15-year-old. What's the best product to do so? Fire
Okay.
away, Gunderson.
All right, well, one is if you're an entrepreneur or you have any entrepreneurial-based income, you could pay your kids.
And how much can they pay them now?
Up to $12,000 on the new plan. Used to be $6,300. And what I like about that is you're going to create a tax deduction and the kids aren't going to have to pay tax. So the 15-year-old can actually, they have to do the work is the thing. Can you think of things for them to do worth that? I didn't pay my kids for a long time because they were young, and I realized, I could have paid them to model and put them on the website, but I didn't know that at the time. So now, I've had them go to Boston with me and
Handing out
carry
books.
books and sign books. Tried to have Roman introduce me and MC me at events. And, so there's things that you can do to pay them. We have a guide, wealthfactory.com/hiring your kids, which are 32 ways that you could hire your kids and what it takes to be able to pay them. But that now can make it pre-tax. And yeah, you can save in a Roth IRA, not my preference, because now you got the tax deductible to you, tax-free to them, goes into a tax-free account. I actually use cash flow banking for my kids. So from the time they were 30 days old, I set up a cash value life insurance. I don't even overfund theirs. I just do a base funding because they're so young. It was pretty heavy with the cash anyway. And so I've just been paying them, and then it goes immediately into their policy. They're the ones that are insured, but I own the policy, and I can choose if I ever give it to them or not because the owner controls that, and you can switch ownership anytime the owner decides they want to switch ownership.
Okay.
So it builds cash value. We can use that cash value for education purposes if we want. We can use that cash value to help them start a business if we want. Really anything that we want. There isn't restriction, but it's still growing tax deferred, and I have ways to access that tax free.
Yeah.
So first, hire your kids and pay them so you get the tax deduction. Second, have them start paying for things on their own so they can learn what the actual
value of
cost
money.
of things are. And we even have our kids kind of negotiate with us. Like, my son will be like, I'm going to take out the garbage. I'm like, how much do you want for that? He goes, $10. And I'll just go take it out myself. I'm like, look, I just saved $10. It's like, that's way too much, right? But then at the same time, one day he's like, hey, I want to earn some money. I'll clean up the yard. And there's like tons of leaves. I'm like, how much? He's $10. I'm like, done, sucker. Like, he's now got to do that. And
That's a steal of a deal.
And then he's making fun of me to hurt my soul. I was in the garage working out with Aaron, who's, president of Wealth Labs. And he's like, is Aaron younger than you, Dad? I'm like, yeah, why? He goes, probably explains why he's lifting a lot more weight than you, doesn't it? I'm like, oh, Aaron's laughing until they're driving to drop the bags off at the garbage or whatever. And he's like, Aaron, do you have a dog because you don't have a wife?
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, funny now, isn't it?
I love the raw honesty of
But then I
teenagers.
even have them invoice us because they don't remember all the time. They're like, hey, didn't I earn some money? I'm like, I didn't see an invoice. It can be a handwritten note. It could be a text. I just want him to learn about this. And, the other day we paid Roman and he lost half of it because he just didn't take care of it. And we're like, well, you're going to start taking care of it. So now I saw his wallet just sitting out on the counter with all his money. At least it's in a place, but still pretty exposed. His brother could take it. Who knows? But, paying them, having them learn that, and then saving. A Roth IRA works for some people. Where you invest that is kind of important. And then there's also cash flow banking, which is cash value insurance. The other place people that are trying to save for college will use 529 plans or Coverdell plans. I'm not a big fan of those because now there's restrictions, and if they don't go to college, it can negate some of it. Yeah. But there's just really high fees, and typically invest in the stock market, which could be a lot more volatile. So
sometimes I hear you say 529, not mine.
Yep, 529 is not mine.
Can you explain that?
It's a tax code. So 401k, 457, 403b, 529, all these plans. Yeah. It's a government code that you don't pay tax because you don't take constructive receipt of it. It goes into the plan. So now it's deferred income. So it's like you didn't earn it. And then you're going to pay the tax when you pull it out. Or if it's a Roth, which it didn't go in pre-tax, or if it's a 529, it'll go specifically to college expenses. You might be able to get that tax-free, but there's a lot of conditions on that. Yeah. So if I teach you how to pay your kids, and that's a tax-deductible, tax-free type of situation, without any strings attached to it, that might be a lot better than having all these strings attached with a whole bunch of fees. I had people that had 529s. Their kids get into college, and it's 2008. The market just went down 3 straight years. It just depleted those accounts, and that's the time that they're trying to pay for college, and it was extraordinarily stressful. I like to lock in the gains, right? That's just my preference. I know that my cash value is only going to do 4 or 5%. It's not going to hit home runs, but I can access that for other things. If interest rates skyrocket, I could pull that out, invest it in something that has a higher interest rate, like, during that time. But when it's like right now, where I feel like everything's a little uncertain, unstable, I don't feel like there's a lot of great deals out there. I can just sit in that cash. Don't worry about it. Know that it's doing well. Know I'd have to get like 9% taxable to even compete with it. So that's the same thing I do for my kids. So we've mentioned 529s. You could do it. I am not a big fan of it. Roth IRA is a little bit better.
What if parents started investing in a 529 and let's say their child decided not to go to college? What happens at that point?
Yeah, there could be tax ramifications when they pull that out. So, yeah. I mean, you could even use a trust and you can put it in the kid's tax bracket, but there's more ability for them to potentially have access to that versus where you own the insurance policy. So, yeah, and the 529s can be problematic if they don't go to school that now, I don't like to fragment my wealth. I don't like to have too many accounts. I have my wealth capture, which is a peace of mind fund. It builds liquidity and stability and savings. When that hit a certain point, I started moving that into cash flow banking so I get a better return and still have access. It's more of a midterm strategy, right? And then from there, my longer term strategies are building businesses and investing in intellectual property. And even this one man show, it takes a little bit longer to develop. And but there's a lot of upside to that. I used to invest in real estate, but I didn't love it. So it just became a major distraction. It wasn't part of my investor DNA. I even had a hard money lending fund, which meant I lent to developments and real estate projects, and then until they got long-term financing, and lost my butt doing that, right? I did IPOs, I did oil and gas. And so if you get involved in too many things, it could become a distraction. So if you could really help them with their financial IQ, that's the first step. Like even at 15,
100% agree.
My mom helping me get a checking account from the time I was really young, and starting my Garrett Gunderson's car care business, learning about income statements and balance sheets, that was so valuable. And she introduced me to Patty Rigby, who worked at the school district and did a lot of those things. And then Terry Tubbs, one of my teachers, got me into business competitions while I was in high school. Like those were the things that made the big difference.
Yeah, and those were all available to you coming from a really small town.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what size of city you live in or what kind of family you come from. There are those resources available. A
checkbook. I don't know how many people use it, but even if it's a debit card and they have to balance what's in the account and make deposits and understand what's going on there. Just some of the basics, and then look from there. Roth IRA, cash flow banking, paying your kids. There's a few ideas.
Now, some of the work that you do with someone that you know very well, Rich, around legacy.
Rich Christensen, Toast Turned Purple is a legacy book that he wrote.
Yeah. It's around this age, I believe, that he starts introducing businesses to his children.
15 or 16. Yeah. He becomes their business coach. And he had one of his kids do like just around $1 million of revenue.
That's
and
so impressive.
Had employees that were in high school earning $100 an hour. He eventually had him shut that business down, but they've had failed businesses selling ties because they got the number 2 rank on Google when he taught them SEO, but people would learn how to tie a tie. They weren't necessarily buying a tie. They had already bought it. But those were great because it got his kids on video. And we use one of his kids for some of our web development stuff that we do. So I think that, entrepreneurship could be really key. And I'm having that conversation with my oldest right now. We've talked about a few different businesses from Field of Battle. We have myfieldofbattle.com.
Sounds so fun.
It's just Nerf guns
I'll
and
hire him for my
obstacle
next
courses
birthday.
for parties. That's a big one for my wife and I then to have to take on. So we haven't decided on that exactly. But I have a trip planned with him to talk about what businesses might look like and what things he's really good at. And, that's hard to get to, but once you get there, it's so rewarding because this is kind of the crux for a lot of people in life. They're just not sure what to do.
Yeah.
But invest in them first and foremost, basics of their financial IQ, income statements, balance sheets, just some of those factors. And then investing beyond that, cash flow banking, maybe a Roth IRA, look to pay him. So I think we've given a decent amount of information for a pretty short, succinct, but great question.
I agree.
All right. If you had questions, here's some answers. Go to AskSomebodyNerds.com, ask your question. We're getting a lot of questions. Give us some time to respond. We'll have someone, connect with you on email, but then we'll film videos for a majority of the questions. Others will just be handled one-on-one because they're so specific.